I don't think we're going to be doing that. So, in any case, we're going to see if we can actually get some interesting stuff happening here. I'm going to share some of that. Maybe we should share some stuff online. Yeah, let's just go plaster over Twitter, everybody. Everybody plaster over Twitter. Hi, Jens and I are doing a hangout at the moment, and I hope that somebody's watching. God damn it! Imagine we did this and nobody watched. Well, that'll be probably normal, but you know, it's new technology. I thought we might give it a shot and give it a go.
Looks great so far.
Yeah, no, it's actually really cool. I really like the way Google is doing it. I'm praising Google. Oh yeah, Google's so good. Oh damn it! I like I've got the link up on my computer and I need to put it on my. Oh damn it! I hate having just too many devices. You know. Oh,
I know.
Dear.
I know.
And like I've got a phone, I've got a tablet, computer, I've got a laptop as well. What do you take when you kind of go out, like out in the field?
It's difficult. I take the phone, of course.
Oh yeah,
it's a no-brainer. And since a couple of years, I think 2 years, I am traveling with an ebook reader because I was once back at the excavation house for like I think it was a 9-week excavation or something. And after week 2, I was through all the books I took with me. This was really...
Yeah, that kind of sucks. So do you take... You obviously don't take boring literature all the time with you. You probably take some interesting books as well. What are the best books to take on a excavation?
The best books to take on an excavation... Well, the first thing I definitely recommend is Agatha Christie. Of course, all the a lot of her whodunits are dealing with an archaeological context, and the best book definitely is her archaeological memoir. Come Tell Me How You Live. She was married to Max Mellovan, excavating in Syria, and she was accompanying him on a lot of excavations. And the book is it's a revelation. So nothing changed. Archaeology is still the same.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's one of those things, isn't it? Like archaeology is one of those things that just doesn't change, even though the people change.
Yeah, we have a bit more technology right now, but the attitude,
For better or worse, I must say, for better or worse. Oh dear. Still got no viewers, nobody watching us, nobody cares. It's okay. It's okay. No, exactly. Do you get to do any lecturing or talking, or do you do any talks or something?
We do talks on the Tepe excavations actually, but I don't do any teaching right now. No, it's basically conferences or invited lectures at universities and so on. Quite a good excuse to travel actually.
Oh yeah, no, exactly. It's good. There, put something out. Maybe.
We are on Twitter, I just see.
Yeah, no, just in case, because otherwise we're just talking to the void. Although this will apparently get saved onto YouTube, so.
Okay.
So I guess that will be.
Its copy.
So at least we have a copy of all the random junk we do. No, I'm always interested because you don't even use archaeology as an excuse to travel. You travel everywhere anyway. So I mean, like, where is the best place you've been in the world? I know that's a really difficult question, but I thought I might ask someone like yourself.
Your favorite kid, or what is this?
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it?
Each place has its very own and unique experience. So it would be Jordan was great, for example, great country to just travel. I mean, Petra and everything. But I particularly fell in love with Greenland, actually.
That's nowhere. What's in Greenland?
Well, to be honest, no people. It's,
I see.
quite,
I see. That was
quite,
the.
quite interesting, the landscape, the nature.
Mm,
Not many places where you just sit in your kayak and a whale just emerges next to you. And
that's crazy.
next thing you see is a Viking North settlement. So it's really cool to just have this mixture of culture and nature. And
So were you in? How long were you in Greenland for?
we were paddling there 3 times by now, and I think each trip 3 weeks. Yeah, so 3 times 3 weeks.
Jesus. And why did you choose that? Like, why
Actually,
Greenland?
a friend of us who was there a couple of years before, and was his pictures were incredible. And then he asked, planning again, doing some kayak expedition there.
Mhm.
Would you like to join? Of course, you don't say no. It sounds boring. I stay here.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's what actually pulled me into it. And the first trip went right into Eriksfjord, where the settlement Erik the Red was established. So
Yeah, no, I know that one.
get much cooler than that.
Uh-huh. But no, I mean that is one of the things I know about a lot of archaeologists is they always want to travel everywhere. That's one of the big draws of the entire thing. So I mean, like the only problem is you don't get a stable base out of that. You have to kind of keep moving. How is that? How
Yeah,
is life always moving?
it's modern nomadism actually.
Yeah.
So the academic nomad or something like that. Because you the jobs are not coming to you. You have to go to the jobs. And that's not only in archaeology the case, but in particular in archaeology, I think.
All right. I mean, like, I mean, do you ever see it changing, or is that just what the kind of people who are kind of drawn to archaeology, do you think?
I don't think it's going to change that quickly. It's really, all the mixture. You need the funding. You need the sites you want to research are not right at your doorstep. So, but I also think not only archaeology, a lot of other field science like geology and so on, they attract a certain crowd of people, and I think those people they can manage this. It's part of the job actually.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that's particularly why some people do choose it. But I think the other side of it, it seems that a lot of people, it's taken for granted, that attitude. I've noticed it over here.
Yeah, for sure. Once you're in, everybody is expecting you're ready to grab your duffel bag and leave for 2 months or so.
Yeah, and then what's after 2 months?
Project's over, and so what? Yeah.
Give me a second, just making sure Twitter knows again.
Yeah.
But I mean, what like you've obviously done field work before.
Yeah, of course.
So what like have you done field work? Where have you done field work before you were doing what you do now? What kind of places have you done?
I started as a student, of course, because during our study, well, we needed, of course, we needed field experience, but we actually were really keen to gather this experience. So I basically started, and my first money earned as archaeologist there on construction sites in rural Germany. So a new road in the middle of some village and some medieval settlement structures underneath. So it's the classic next to the excavator, a lot of construction workers right behind you.
Yeah.
And there, what I learned is you really need to take this networking thing seriously. So go to lectures, talk to the people, ask the people, and then you somehow make contact and you get the chance to participate in their project. So the more visible you are, the more they remember you are there and you are willing to work, and the bigger are your chances. So that's actually an advice I would give any younger student. Go to lectures and ask the people that.
Yeah. I mean, how do you feel? How do you feel archaeology will be in like 5 years' time? Do you think we'll still be at the same place, or do you think things are moving quite fast? Because I think we're getting to the stage where we're beginning to learn how to use online stuff to actually better tell stories.
Technology plays a huge role. I mean, nowadays you start with a GPR or electromagnetic survey before you do anything else. So you actually get an idea what to expect. You already can sit at a desk and sort out where it would be most useful to start to dig actually. So that's definitely changed, and documentation changed so quickly. So we use it at the excavation. Today you can do take a couple of pictures of an excavation trench, and a few days later you get a 3D model of the state of excavation. You can move it, you can click into it, zoom into it, and you can base your stone drawings onto this kind of model, and it makes documentation much quicker than it used to be in the years before. I think that's an advantage, definitely.
And what about, obviously 3D printing is now a new thing alongside 3D scanning. I mean, the fact is that we may not in the future have any authentic artifacts yet. We might even have just, copies.
I'm really
I wonder. Sorry, go on.
It's this whole Homo naledi thing. So they published the data online, and everyone could now print the fossils, which is a great thing for teaching, for doing examination. So this is a big advantage, a big step forward, and something I really appreciate. So that's a good thing about technology. Another thing is that right now, during the discussion about war-torn Syria and the ISIS destruction and everything, we have so many laser scanning projects, 3D scanning projects, and this is important. I think it's really necessary to do this, but I think a lot of people are confusing documentation with preservation here. So these scanning projects are now sold in the media in particular as the kind of rescue. Now we are preserving the cultural heritage of Syria, which we are not doing. You can't undo destruction just because you have a 3D model. So as important as scanning and having the model and the data ready is, it's still important in my eyes to make sure that preservation is actually working in the first place. So that's that's why I'm a bit on the fence regarding this enthusiasm about technology right now.
Yeah. No, and I mean, this is the problem, is that it's almost like, oh, right, finally, we've got something to deal with it, so these archaeologists don't continue digging in front of our development and get in the way of us. I'm like, that's not the point. I think a lot of the time, we as archaeologists still have to reason why archaeology in the past is important, and that's the biggest problem for us. I mean, recently, this is one of the recent things I do want to actually mention, is basically talking about the recent discussion of Channel 5 in the UK and places in New Zealand are the Gravediggers, the Nazi Gravediggers show that was first made in 2014 by a company called Clear Sky. And the problem was that in what the original issue was, that in the clips that they showed from the film, I mean, it was like throwing about human bones. It was treasure hunting. It wasn't done by proper professional archaeologists, and that's not in a snobby way, but it was done without care and attention and professionalism. And that's what's necessary for these kind of projects, especially human graves. I don't know why people...
It's quite a lot of... We have a lot of levels to deal with here. First of all, of course, it's the old question, what's the difference between archaeology and plain grave robbing? So this is the first thing. How can we, as archaeologists, justify digging up bones and at the same time blame other people for doing this? So generally speaking, we don't just go anywhere to fetch out bones from the soil. We do so with a question in mind. We want to know something about these people. These people are telling a story, actually, these bones. So this is the first thing. You have a question other than how can I sell this stuff I'm digging out here. And second is, again, it's not about finds, it's about find context. So the finds are nice, but actually it's the context telling us all the stuff we need to know to answer our questions. That's the first level. A second and more dramatic issue in this case is we're not talking about some ancient human ancestor. We're not talking about some hunter-gatherer site or medieval battlefield. It's actually people you and I could still have known. It could be your, well, not directly, but in a general meaning, your or my grandfathers. And that's a thing. I've thought a lot about it. I think it's about having a relation to the bones, which makes it so difficult. None of us wouldn't have a problem to dig up Lucy, the famous the Australopithecus.
Yes.
But your own grandfather or great-grandfather, it's still a different topic because it's a direct line of relation. So that's what makes people really uncomfortable about this, besides the fact that they're just pulling out the bones and throwing them around without any care for piety or reference or something.
And I mean, the other thing is that the worrying thing is people might think that's what archaeologists do, when in fact, dealing with human bones, it's a very complicated process, especially
recent ones. Topic, yeah.
I mean, I don't know about in the UK, in Europe, but in the UK, I mean, we're not allowed to touch bones, archaeologists, unless they've been definitely over 70 years old or something. I think that's the kind of, if they've been buried in the ground for more than 70 years, like the decomposition is that bad, then we can, archaeologists can look at them, but we need to give them over to a coroner first to determine what age.
Similar over here. If somebody would find this bone in his backyard over here in Berlin, the first thing he'd call is the police and not an archaeologist, actually.
Yeah, exactly.
A colleague of mine was excavating a graveyard here in the center of Berlin. Actually, I'm not sure if I'm telling anything wrong right now. It must be one of the oldest cemeteries in the town. And right now they are step by step actually reburying these remains. So the analyses are completed, a lot of very fascinating data collected, but the bones are reburied again. So archaeologists really think and care about this beyond we have some old stuff here, let's just dig it up. So it has consequences, that's the point.
Yeah, and that's the biggest issue for a lot of this, is just the consequences don't seem to have been to be there. This is the biggest issue, is that we don't know what happened to any of the finds that were in the show. We don't know what was going on.
I mean, there's an an antiquities dealer or a military dealer involved in the show. So digging up things just with the intention to maybe selling something, that's the opposite of archaeology, actually.
That's my biggest problem with, I don't know if you've heard this is a complete sidetrack, the show it's Antique Archaeology over in America, where they find old stuff and they try to increase the price so that they can sell it on. And they have they have the audacity to call it archaeology. I think it's just shocking. It's shocking. But I think that's the thing, it's people, everybody sees everything in terms of money and in terms of wealth and economy. And I think this is the problem. The past is worth much more than any money you could put on it. Because
you just can't make heritage, cultural heritage, a commodity. That's that's a basic issue I had about this. It's not your or mine or their heritage. It's a community heritage. So it's telling the history of in the end of all of us. So it's really hard to see why this could be a private asset to be sold or traded. So.
I must say that I did see some of the response. Channel 5 response was something along the lines of, "We're going to show it anyway. We bought it." And,
I just read it in the newspaper. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some other ones that are basically saying, well, it was done with the best of intentions, you know, and like, what's the problem? I don't understand.
Have the good intentions, so
And I think this is the thing, is that there is obviously what's missing. One of the big lessons for archaeology and the heritage in general is the missing message that we have to have, which is, you know, these are important not just because they're old, not just because we're saying them that they're important, but because ultimately they have some innate importance, and that is part of our community heritage. Like, I don't think we're part, like, neither of us are against people being interested in the past and wanting to find out more about it.
This is part of our job, actually.
Exactly. But, I mean, this is what we want to encourage.
Just moving a bit away from the World War II archaeology stuff, but just going back to trading in antiquities. You know, you could buy Roman coins, for example. Roman coins are sold on eBay and flea markets for basically no money. It's a pound or a euro for a Roman coin. And you could argue, and the market, the dealers are actually arguing like this, you know, there's so many Roman coins. It's really, if you just sell 10 or 20 of them, who cares? Nobody's hurt. The problem is that this encourages looting and illegal excavation to just get hands on these kind of coins. And while indeed a single coin is, we know how they look, we know typologies, it's not that important. Again, the context makes all the story. So imagine the place of the legendary Kalkriese, the battle in the Teutoburger forest here in Germany, Romans against the German tribes. The site was identified by certain Roman coins found on site. The coin itself was pretty worthless, but having it there in the context with the other finds, but was telling a story about a battle site we wouldn't be able to identify without these little coins. So this is actually the whole background, and this is what people need to understand. We are not trying to safeguard a monopoly on digging up treasures. That's not our intention. We try to protect archives in the soil, actually.
That's a brilliant example, actually, because that's the thing, is that, again, there's a disparity between the value that we see in these items and the value that other people see. I mean, I remember there was a coin hoard last year, I think during the summer, and what the main headline in one of the papers was the monetary value of that coin hoard. And I was thinking to myself, no, that doesn't matter. That coin, the value of that, the monetary value of that.
The difficulty is that you can't figure the scientific value in numbers. You can't say it's worth free I don't know, free books or free postdoc positions. You can't just figure a scientific value.
But I can understand why people think of heritage as money. You know, it's one of these things, is that everything else is talked about in money, in terms of money. And
so, of course, yeah.
No, exactly. And that's the problem. So I think what we have to do as archaeologists is definitely encourage more interest in heritage as valuable in itself. You know, and I'd love to do a show talking about Second World War excavations. I think that would be very, very useful, because I think a lot of it, the World War II, is talked about from a history point of view, as in written stuff. But I'd see archaeology as more digging up about the day-to-day life.
Could tell archaeology is about material culture, and this is material culture, and it is actually great. I'm also working in more recent projects. We have a lot of World War II history in Berlin. You can imagine a lot of underground structures, bunkers, and so on. And I'm active in this direction as well. And of course, archaeological methodology is able to just add to the historical part of this. And the great thing is we still have eyewitnesses, so we can compare the archaeological record to what these people are telling, and this offers a great chance to just develop our methodologies as well. It's actually a great opportunity.
That is, yeah, no, exactly. And I think there's a lot of the fact is that the Second World War is almost, there's a different world with the Second World War in the way that media presents it. I think there's there's unknown stories. I mean, one of my favorite one of my favorite little pieces is there's a metal band called Sabaton, and Sabaton love doing war-based music. But one of my favorite songs is Uprising, and it was about the Polish resistance against the invading Nazis in Warsaw. And it's something like I know that from my own learning of World War II history, it was basically the Nazi war machine basically, paraded across Europe without any sort of slowing down.
That's the popular picture, yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is that actually what happened was there was many places in which resistance appeared, and there were all these different little stories to tell about how people reacted to this. And I think that is often overlooked, and that's just a shame. I mean, being German, half German, the better half, it's obviously a part of my own history. And I think it's something that, we have to, I think we need to bring out into the light, as well as every other history that exists.
Yeah, and I think that maybe this is also something about this whole Nazi war digger thing, why I can see why people are so interested in, and why it's let's face it, it's sexy, it sounds great on TV, but it's something different if you really are confronted with this kind of history in everyday life. And in Berlin, it is visible. We have a lot of buildings purposely not renovated. So we have a lot of scars from the war, for example. And this is actually quite an interesting thing to handle history, to make it part of the history, to not just put it into history books and say that's over, we don't care for this, but to just somehow make it part of the public image. So it's still there. This happens here, and you can see it right here. And I think this is a good way to start people thinking.
Yeah. I mean, this is my kind of whole thing is about, as I've had arguments with academics about the past being created in the present. I would argue that the past doesn't exist in and of itself, but rather it is created through our interpretation in the present. And that is really where our kind of input lies. And that's why it's
history is always written by the winners.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, this is why we have to, as not just archaeologists in our expert kind of ways, but as a society, we have to realize that we are creating the history by choosing to listen to certain histories over others. We are writing a history in that. And that's why I don't like us just focusing on Egypt, Rome, like the Second World War. I think we should talk about other things too, but I really wish that we could talk about.
That's the point of it. So people would listen if you start talking Nazis or ancient Egypt, but it gets a bit more difficult if you want to, make a slave trade a topic or something.
Oh, I've heard people want to definitely talk about that, but not in the way, not in a historical way. I can tell you that.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, the example I use, what are 13th century farmers in Bordeaux doing? And most people are like, well, where's Bordeaux?
The famous average man, or woman. We want to be gender correct here.
Oh yeah, no, I mean anybody really. And there's another even topic is about, for example, transgender or intersex or queer theory in archaeology, which is
interest is at least in particular themes. Interest is increasing right now in this kind of research. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, is archaeology is almost everything, which I really like. I like the fact that
that's a good thing. We could have a say about everything, so
oh, we just want to butt in.
Us, but we could have a say.
I actually, somebody said on one of the podcasts, it's a magpie subject. It likes to thieve bits and pieces from other subjects, and it's kind of like, what do you think?
Yeah, I think maybe we could just introduce a complete new term for this. Archaeology, like mansplaining, it would be archaeology planning or something. We really have an opinion about everything. We've seen so many different things people are doing, so yeah, I'm pretty sure we could contribute to quite a range of topics. Even topics interest in current media. So yeah.
look at the big ones. I mean, like the thing is, we have a record of human history. We can talk about climate change. We have a record of human history. We can talk about immigration. We have a record of human history. We can talk about health.
Think about the latest discussions in archaeology. It's always mirroring the public debate at the moment. A couple of years ago, we had this huge discussion on war and warfare and conflict. Now we have a huge discussion on migration, even in archaeology. So we somehow are reflecting, mirroring the public debate. So of course, archaeology is influenced by topical issues. Yeah, of course.
And, you know, sometimes people decide to just start streaming about a certain topic that's kind of topical at the moment, just for the hell of it. I just want to round off just with archaeologists definitely like their alcohol, and I don't want to get too I don't want to get into stories or anything. But what is the archaeologist's choice of drink? I mean, do you have a cocktail that you are like, that's the archaeology cocktail? Do you have like the tephra on the beach? You know,
yeah, the trowel on the beach or something. No.
Oh, that's I've got to make this.
Generally, the archaeologist is pretty much, I'm not sure if this is a working thing here or so, but at least in the people I know, beer is an issue. So in the evening in the excavation house, everyone's having a beer. So that's something for sure. But if you're asking for a cocktail, that would be really difficult. You know, I'm usually going with Long Island iced tea. It's the biggest thing for the fact that I'm really not so much into cocktails. A good scotch would do for me, actually.
Good choice. I completely support that. And I'm actually just wondering, is it ancient ales or beers do you like, or do you like modern ones?
Hey, you know, you take what you get. You can't be picky in some countries where you're working.
Yeah, no, exactly.
I think there is a brewery trying to recreate this Babylonian ale, Enki ale or something. But I never tried it. And to be honest, this ancient beer is very, very different from what we today understand as beer. And I think a lot of us really wouldn't like the idea and taste of it.
But I think that's quite an interesting experiential archaeology. Not experimental, experiential archaeology. It's the kind of archaeology I wouldn't mind getting funding for. Oh yes, I will try this beer.
Yeah, but you know, the basic beer I was talking a few just recently, you know, water and some grain in the sun. I think it's not really that tasty. It's very watery, fermented, watery stuff.
Yeah, no, I can imagine, and like that's the biggest issue, is that they really just didn't have a sense of flavor in the past. That's the problem.
Who knows?
Well, maybe that was tasty to them. Yeah.
You can only compare what you know. You know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely. I mean, is there something that's I mean, we use actually still a lot of the plants that we've domesticated, and yeah. I wonder. Obviously, they've changed genetically over thousands of years. I mean, would you call that genetic engineering? I know this is one of those things. It's like you know,
topic. This is a question of definition. How we define it. Of course, if you somehow are actively selecting it from a gene pool, even if you're not calling it a gene pool, you do some engineering, of course. That's an interesting thing. I learned a lot, you know, working at the site, dealing right with this step in cultural history, the step towards domestication, agriculture, and so on. I learned quite a lot about the biology behind it, and actually biologists are not talking about domestication in the very beginning. It's management. You start to manage the animals and plants before you domesticate them. And so it's a long row of steps, and it's not visible in the beginning. So it takes some time till this selection becomes visible.
Whoops, dropped something. I just actually, you know, that's the thing about domestication. I remember in my final year, it was quite an interesting discussion about whether humans were domesticated as they were domesticating. Do you know? Like we were being domesticated as well. It's quite an interesting concept, isn't it? Because again, it's again one of those things. Like, for example, some people argue cats domesticated us. Are you a cat person or are you a dog person?
Domesticated. They just tagged along for food.
Are you a cat person or a dog person?
Personally, I don't have either of them, but personally, I think I would be drawn more to dogs because cats always look like they're plotting something. You know, we're looking at you and you know we're plotting something. But I have a problem with we have a lot of cats in the excavation house, for example.
Oh, really? Oh, is that just from the food?
Stray cat from the area. We know where there's food as long as we are there. So.
Oh, jeez. Right. Well, I'll let you go for today. It's been really good talking to you, and I think this is really cool. I think we should definitely pick this up again.
We should repeat this actually. So just let's think a new topic. Yeah, you see, we are straying from our topic anyway. So
yeah, exactly. And I think we'll also give people a bit of notice as well next time, so that we get lots of more people. Well, thank you very much,
thank you.
Jens, and have a good day.
Yep.